Do you ever watch build guides and think, okay, that's awesome, and I definitely want to play that build, but when and how? Well, content for Diablo 4, and more specifically build guides, can be very subjective and difficult to apply to your own situation. Everyone is at a different level, place in the game, and a part of their journey. So today, I wanted to make a guide more focused on how to progress as a rogue and talk about how you can transition to certain builds. To kick things off, I want to talk about the 1 to 50 journey as a rogue. While the rogue does have many build options, I personally believe there's one leveling build to rule them all. It's the build that I haven't been utilizing myself in the endgame, but I did level with it from 1 to 55, and that is Twisting Blades. Twisting Blades is just objectively the best leveling option for the rogue. Not only is it fast at clearing and has insane mobility, but it's also the easiest to build because it only needs one aspect from level 1 to 50, Blade Dancer's aspect. Now, in case you want to build for this, I'm going to have a D4 planner linked below that will show you all the skills required, and I'll even include a paste bin that highlights the order that I personally recommend leveling the skills. The most important concept to understand with Twisting Blades is that you want to make one enemy vulnerable with Puncture, stab them with 2 to 3 Twisting Blades, and dash through the largest clump of enemies to pull the daggers through them and deal insane damage. If you'd like a complete leveling guide on Twisting Blades leveling, let me know in the comments. But hang on. I'm not only going to give you one option to level. Are you kidding me? That's not fair. Everyone's different, and some people don't care about the best and the fastest, but would rather enjoy their time leveling. So to answer a question that I've gotten a lot, let's talk about a leveling build route for Penetrating Shot. Now, if you even want to consider leveling with Penetrating Shot, you must have the Trick Shot aspect somewhere on your gear. Otherwise, this build just isn't even playable in my opinion. If you're wondering the best place to put this aspect, it's on your gloves or your amulet. I would not advise putting it on your weapon, only because you're going to constantly be upgrading your weapon as you're leveling. With that important mention out of the way, let's talk skills. So for the leveling variant of Penetrating Shot, since you aren't going to have perfect aspects, I have accommodated the build in a few ways. First, we're running Penetrating Shot and Rapid Fire. Now, you might be thinking, 2 spender skills? Valued? Have you gone mad? And while generally that's up for debate, this time I haven't. The logic behind running 2 spenders is they have different purposes. Since you aren't going to have the best gear while leveling, you don't have insane damage with Penetrating Shot on bosses and elites. So Rapid Fire will help you as a great spender option for elites and boss fights. The build for this can be found on the second D4 planner link in the description. And in order to keep this video short and on topic for progressing as a rogue, I'm not going to go through all of these builds in depth in this video. If you would like an entire guide about that build, again, let me know down below. If enough people want to see certain content, I'll make it. So now that I've shown you 2 viable build options for leveling from 1 to 50, it's time to understand how to transition your build. This is something the game doesn't do that great of a job explaining very well, but when you hit 50, your goal is to clear the Capstone Dungeon and move up to World Tier 3. Once you complete that, the content you'll be facing will drop you Sacred Gear, and at this point, your goals are as follows. 1. You should know which build you're working towards in the endgame. 2nd, begin assembling pieces that are required for the build. Now, this is where the build guides that I've been making and other content creators make can be useful. And finally, find a good pivot point to fully transition to the build you want to play. To help illustrate this further, let me talk about what I did for my build transition. So, like I said, I leveled from 1 to 50 with Twisting Blades. Then I went to the Capstone Dungeon and cleared it. I already had my D4 planner created for Pen Shot since the server slam, so I knew which build I was going to try to assemble in the mid-game. From levels 51 to 55, I collected a good Sacred Amulet, which I put Trick Shot aspect on. I got a nice crossbow that rolled well and put Edge Masters on it. Then I had 1 good ring and 1 best in slot pair of gloves. There, I applied Rapid aspect and Vengeful aspect. At that point, I had 4 legendary aspects and some good secondary properties. And then I noticed I was actually able to clear content efficiently and moving my way up through World Tier 3. If you're wondering when you can actually swap to the build you want to play, it's when you have some of the most essential pieces of the build available to you. For example, in yesterday's Penetrating Shot Rogue build, I was talking about the importance of specific stat lines like max energy on my helmet, and then vulnerable damage throughout my big pieces of gear like crossbow, rings, amulet, and etc. Basically, you just need to get to a point where you can pivot to the new build without being extremely weak. The biggest mistake you can make is just switching to a build because it looks like fun without having any of the gear you need to play it. So before I move on, I want to share 3 pieces of wisdom that I've learned through doing this process 2 different times. First, this process is not easy by default. You could be and might feel weak and struggling to clear content on World Tier 3 unless you did a very good job of assembling pieces on your leveling build to come into World Tier 3 with. Second, you should wait until you have the most important aspects and pieces required before you switch to a build. Again, if you're wanting to transition into the endgame with my previous build guide as an example, I highlighted the most important aspects and gear pieces that bring the build to life. And third, content like the Helltide and Tree of Whispers dungeon farming is your best friend in this period to get gear drops and find legendary aspects. So now that you're in World Tier 3, your goal is to keep working towards the build path. You're finding higher level sacred gear with every type of content you're doing with better secondary properties. When you're finding this gear, you should be applying aspects to your best pieces to get stronger and stronger. And at this point, you've entered the mid game. This trend is going to continue all the way until you're strong enough to fight the capstone boss and move up to World Tier 4. Well, now that you're in World Tier 4, you're doing the same process again that you did in World Tier 3, but this time it's with the best gear tier in the game, Ascendant Gear. At this point, you're doing the most difficult content in the game and you'll want to get as strong as possible quickly. To do that, you're going to be acquiring Ascendant Gear and begin imprinting new aspects once again. You'll be following the same routine you did in World Tier 3, but this time it's going to be easier because you already have the aspects applied on your gear if you did a good job gearing in World Tier 3. So you'll know exactly what you're imprinting and this process is going to be a lot easier. If you've been around my channel before, you know me, I'm not a fan of dragging videos out. I'm here to try to help you guys out as quickly as possible. I've been seeing so many comments on the channel asking me how to transition your build or how to actually use my build guides while you're leveling at a lower level. I'm entirely understanding that right now I'm at a much higher level than your average D4 player. I mean, it makes sense. I am playing an unholy amount of Diablo right now. But seriously, I do hope this video has helped you to understand how to progress your build and how to naturally move up in world tiers without feeling like you're getting one shot while trying to run the builds that I'm showcasing at level 90 plus. Now, if you have any questions, as always, I'll try to get to as many comments as I can. With the recent support I've been getting, it's getting harder and harder to get to every comment, but I started this channel to build a community, and so I try my very best to answer comments as I'm grinding Diablo. Anyway, though, that's going to do it for me. My name has been Valued. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.